Welcome to the GR Rideshare Adventures. Thanks for joining us. Just want to say thank you guys for everyone that listens regularly and downloads and shares our podcast and comments on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. A little different setup for this week. This is a interview with Farmers Insurance. We talked about rideshare insurance and how it's super important to have it. And he just kind of breaks down him meaning Jeff and Matt from Farmers Insurance in Easttown on Wealthy Street. He breaks down the different coverages like period 1, period 2, period 3, what's covered, what's not, and etc. And I, even myself, as I feel like I'm pretty versed in insurance, and it was interesting to see and hear how many things I didn't know just about the insurance game in general. So I recommend reaching out to Jeff. I'll leave his contact information in the show notes, and we'll post it on Facebook. But you should reach out to him, and you should get insurance. It's relatively cheap, and it really saves your butt. And your insurance company needs to know that you're rideshare driving. So check it out. It's not as long as our normal podcast, so that'll be a good break for you guys. It's about 45 minutes. And let me know what you think. Thanks. Welcome to the GR Rideshare Podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm here with Jesper.
Hello.
And I'm here with Matt and Jeff, and they are from Farmers Insurance. And we're just going to kind of sit down and talk about rideshare insurance. If you guys want to introduce yourselves and how long you've been in the business and et cetera.
My name is Jeff Lake. I've been with Farmers Insurance for 25 years. Wow. We are located in Easttown at Wealthy and Fuller. And Farmers had an alliance early on with Uber, and we got introduced to a lot of the rideshare people through our location inside the Greenlight office on Michigan. And that's really where our whole story began with the rideshare.
You say alliance, did they reach out to you, or did you reach out to them? Not you personally, but Farmers.
Corporate Farmers and corporate Uber in Los Angeles had a early relationship.
Oh, okay.
And we were one of the test pilot locations, and we maintained an office there for about a year. And
at the hub.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And it went its course, and we consolidated and now have everybody back at the office now. But Matt worked over there for a while, and I have my assistant, my senior agency producer, Matt Stivers, with me. And Matt is really our go-to person in dealing with personal lines, and he dealt with the majority of the people involving rideshare.
Hi. How's it going? Yeah, I'm Matt Stivers. I've been with Jeff at the Jeff Lake Agency since November of 2015. Prior to that, though, I worked at Corporate Farmers for 4.5 years.
All right.
I was a direct sales agent for the specialty lines department, selling like toy products, basically, like motorcycle insurance and things like that, which it basically has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about today.
Sure.
But my insurance background is, close to 10 years.
Okay.
So, but like Jeff said, I did spend about a year in and out at the Uber location on Michigan Street, just talking to rideshare drivers, kind of giving them the ins and outs on why they should carry.
So when they would come in, you would do a sales pitch, basically?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And the reason for that, one, that's not how we operate in general as an agency. We're not a sales pitchy type group.
Right.
It was more of an education,
which turns into sales.
Right. Well, in general, yes. And, but more, it was more of if somebody came in and had an insurance question.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was more of us being there for the drivers. It wasn't meant to be a forefront for me to be able to sell insurance. That was kind of like a secondary reason for me to be there.
Okay.
It was more of a, why do I need something additional? What would happen if?
Right.
And things like that. So,
well, even with us, quote unquote, being experts in the rideshare, I still don't exactly understand it, and I'm sure we'll talk about the different periods and stuff like that, and go on. So, and your role right now is just, you may have brought it up, but I meant
with Jeff's agency.
Yeah.
I'm the senior agency producer, but I concentrate on personal lines insurance. So your home, auto, and then specialty products like motorcycles, travel trailers, things like that.
Okay. Cool. So the first question we have, what is rideshare? What is the endorsement and why is it important to have it? I mean, for the obvious reasons, but.
Sure. So it's just an added endorsement so that, let me actually go one step back to answer that.
Absolutely.
All streamlined auto insurance policies exclude you using your car, your personal car, as a livery. That's the technical term.
So for hire, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you are not allowed to transport people for money.
Okay.
There's not an auto insurance policy written today that allows you to do that. Okay. So being an Uber driver or being a Lyft driver, your insurance policy is negated the minute you turn that app on.
Right.
So what the endorsement does is once you turn that app on, now you're covered up until your Uber or Lyft coverage turns on.
Okay.
Okay. So basically it just streamlines your policy together and it gives us the knowledge knowing that you're doing it.
Right. Which is what I wanted to. And I'll be honest with you, before the rider, I didn't have it. Before it came to Michigan, there was no option to do it. So, but the second I found out from you, I literally called him and was like, let's set it up. Let's get this going. I want to be covered.
And it's not terrifically expensive.
No,
either.
It's not.
But keep in mind when you talk about premium and rideshare endorsements, and that can vary based upon points, based upon the vehicle you're driving, based upon the age of the driver. There are factors that can influence that rate outside of just simply the base premium.
I mean, based upon where you live, based upon what other policies you have with us. And keep in mind, I mean, if you have 3 cars in your household, but you're only using one for rideshare, we're only surcharging that one car.
Okay.
We're not surcharging your entire policy.
Right.
So, and we're not surcharging your entire household of drivers. We're picking what driver is the rideshare driver, and we're picking what car is being used as the rideshare car.
Yeah, when I had talked to Jeff about it, I had said, because I was using the wife's van, and then I bought this other car, and he's like, you kind of got to pick one. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm using this one from now on. So,
and you can switch on and off on those too.
For sure.
So,
yeah. Okay.
Or you can choose to have on both, right?
Yeah, and if you do,
then you pay twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Did I use the correct terminology when I brought up the periods, period
1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you explain that a little bit as how that rider kind of helps that?
Sure. So period 1 would be the minute you turn your app on.
Okay.
The minute you turn your app on, you are now a business.
Yes.
Okay. Period 2 starts when you accept a ride.
Okay.
Okay. Accepting a ride, you're on your way to pick up somebody. That is when your Uber or Lyft coverage starts.
Okay.
Okay. Period 3 is when you pick up the rider and the ride is commencing. And then once the rider gets out of your car, the minute they're out of your car, if your app is still on, you're back in period 1.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So where does the coverage for the rider, where does that, not the actual rider, but the rider on our policy, what does that cover, that period?
Period 1.
Okay.
Period 1. And it's very important to think about this because the one thing that always comes up when I'm talking to people is it's very rare that I'm in that. I'm like, I get it. It's true. I mean, okay, you turn your app on, you're in your driveway, right? You back out, somebody hits you.
Right. Yeah. I'm in it quite a bit more. I do a lot of airport runs, so I will drive
primary spot for it.
From airport, or let's say I bring somebody downtown. I'm driving with the app on all the way back to the airport, so I'm on period 1 that whole time.
Right.
I might not accept a ride until I get all the way to the airport. I may accept one. I don't know, but
or for the crowd sitting at the Wendy's.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're typically on period 1.
Right. Exactly.
Well, and the big thing to remember is that if you don't have the endorsement, okay, let's use this terminology just for our hypothetical. Let's say you don't have the endorsement. Okay. So as long as nothing's changed from when I was working at the green light at Michigan and all that stuff at Michigan Street, Uber will extend some liability coverage during that time, but it's very minimal. I think it's $50,000 per person, $100,000 per accident for liability, which is very little.
Yeah.
Okay. They won't extend medical. meaning the unlimited medical that we have that's required in the state of Michigan, that doesn't get extended. There's no collision or comp coverage. Okay.
Which people, I mean, you want the liability, but for a driver that maybe is just doing it paycheck to paycheck, he wants the comprehension and the collision because
they want their car fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's the out part. Now let's look at the legality end of it. You get into an accident, you don't have the rideshare endorsement. Your insurance company doesn't know you're driving for a rideshare company. Mm. You just gave your insurance company every legal right to non-renew your policy at renewal. Now you have a non-renewal for misrepresentation of facts. What's going to happen with you trying to find insurance with another carrier?
Right. So that all is recorded then.
Oh yeah.
So that you guys run
everybody now we all know that. Oh. And now we're in a day and age of, once again, we all know this stuff.
Right.
I mean, so it's a cyclical thing.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, I mean, we can get a bad rap all you want. You can talk about, the evil insurance company, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's just the general with insurance. I mean, you pay these premiums every month, and then when you go to try to collect, they're like, I mean, it happens. It is what it is. It's just part of the game. So,
well, but the more stuff like this occurs, and I know we had kind of talked about this before we started, the interview,
right?
But when you talk about rideshare drivers that are trying to maybe skirt the system by not getting an endorsement like this. When you hear people talk about things like, why are my insurance rates going up?
Yeah.
Why do my insurance rates keep on going up? Why does what other people do cause my rates to go up? It's stuff like this.
Right.
Yeah. We have to be able to monitor. We have to be able to keep things under control or else things go crazy.
Right.
Well, when things like this can't be harnessed and kept under control, we have to be able to pull that stuff in. Because though we know it's not meant to be a bad thing. We know people aren't intentionally being bad.
Right.
People are trying to save money, and I get it. I'm a consumer just like everybody else, but in its very legality term, it's insurance fraud.
Yeah. No.
So
the other thing that we can't overlook, and Matt touched on it briefly, is medical. In Michigan, we only have maybe 4 carriers who offer a rideshare: Progressive, State Farm, Farmers, and possibly Allstate. I'm not sure about that. The reason we have a very limited amount of carriers involved in it is because the losses in Michigan are terrifically unpredictable. And if you go online and you look for some of the companies you might hear on commercials, and you might find that they actually don't offer auto insurance in Michigan, let alone rideshare. What drives that? Why don't we have those options that, for example, companies or people in Chicago or other metropolitan areas outside of Michigan have? Because of our unlimited medical benefit. When you're in that car and you're injured as a result of anything involving a car, it's not your health insurance that's going to pay for the injuries. It's your auto insurance.
Right.
And the auto insurance has an unlimited medical benefit. So when you go back and you look at what drives the price of your insurance, we have in our office right now one $500,000 claim, where we're up to $500,000
for medical.
And it will easily add another maybe $700,000 on top of that by the time they're done. Now, this was a simple accident in Marquette, actually, just an ordinary somebody, crossed the center line, slowing down in ice and snow. And, people were both in major, reconstructive surgery, et cetera. They were at Mary Free Bed for several months.
Yeah.
This is an ordinary thing. It happens every day. And as much as people think about insurance as the fender bender, rebuilding the car, rebuilding you is the bigger expense. And
which makes sense.
When you look at okay, if you figure you're paying $1,000 per 6 months for auto insurance, think about how many people it takes for us to offset that $500,000 bill, let alone the $1.2 million that we might be up to. It's or higher. Now you get above that $555,000 mark, and at that point the MCCA pays in.
Okay.
Now that brings about a whole other hornet's nest of issues. First of all, if you happen to have that, the insurance company might go along with paying for the the bumpers and maybe not do a thorough investigation on a background of how an accident happened and review the technology to see if it's rideshare or not, when they're talking about a $10,000, repair to a car. But if you're talking about somebody who's in traction, who has major medical issues,
Right.
that's the point that the insurance company is going to look and see, are we covered? Who is responsible? Now, in order for an auto insurance company to be reimbursed by the MCCA, they have to provide proof that all the documents line up, that everything is accurate before the MCCA reimburses.
What is the MCCA?
Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association. It's a state-mandated organization that basically handles medical claims in excess, or catastrophic medical claims in excess of roughly $500,000.
So do you ever see on your insurance declarations page the $96 per vehicle that you're paying every 6 months? That's what you're paying it into.
Oh, okay.
We collect it as your insurance company, but we send it directly to the state.
Oh, okay.
The state holds that money. We have a deductible of $550,000. Once we meet that, we can then go to the state to claim anything above that $550 for medical.
Okay. Did not know that.
Keep in mind this. Okay, the state has become extremely disciplined in what they pay out on that, and the insurance companies, a loss of $1 million that's not insured for them is huge. So they're going to make sure that all their documents are in order.
Right.
And if you've got a person that is withheld information that was actually in that period one, a rideshare driver, didn't happen to notify the insurance company, I'd be very concerned about coverage.
Yeah.
And
if they didn't have the endorsement.
They didn't have the endorsement. If they knowingly withheld information, and in the state's mind, that's unfortunately, it's called insurance fraud.
And now you're in a lawsuit.
Yeah, I was going to ask, if that happens, will the insurance company deny the claim? Like, let's say it wasn't around and I did get an accident and then I'm really hurt or whatever, or I hurt someone else. Are they going to be like, yep, see ya?
I don't think that would be an overnight quick process,
Right.
but it's certainly something that I wouldn't want to put myself in a position to know, to be the last, again, I said earlier, you can always replace a car, even if you're talking about a $50,000 vehicle. That's, you can deal with that over time. But when you're talking about not being able to work, lost wages, medical, I think the insurance company is going to do its due diligence to make sure, first of all, they want to take care of you. But
For sure.
if you've misrepresented things, you put yourself in a sticky spot. I don't want to be in that gray area. And
Right.
I don't know that they won't cover that, but I wouldn't want to put myself in a category of not having clear. Now, the last thing you want when you've had an accident is to wonder if or if not.
Yeah.
Do you want to find out?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
It's not worth it.
it's the same thing with liability insurance. The state minimum for liability coverage in our state's $20,000 per person, $40,000 per accident for bodily injury liability. Right now, obviously, because we have the unlimited medical, the likelihood of you ever being sued by somebody for medical bills is none.
Okay.
You're going to get sued for pain and suffering, right? That's what you're going to get sued for, right? Do you really think somebody's going to take the time to sue you for $20,000?
No.
So my question is why carry that little amount of coverage when maybe $5 to $10 more a month you can carry $250,000 per person, $500,000 per accident?
Yeah.
It goes back to the why find out.
It's not worth it.
Can the rideshare endorsement be expensive for some? It can be, and I've seen it. It can get up there.
Yeah, I was going to ask because mine's pretty. I mean,
For what it is, for what you're getting,
it's pretty cheap.
Mhm.
I mean, but what is the average? You guys know per?
I would say on average for your average rideshare driver, so the guy who's late 20s renting an apartment and's got a car that may not be the best rated vehicle out there.
Right.
If it's the only vehicle in his policy, so we don't have like the multi-vehicle discounts and all that other stuff, you could see an uptick of about $150 to $200 on his policy.
Is that per 6 months? Right.
Yeah.
So that's
you
not
could
bad.
see that.
think-
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think mine is 80,
right.
something like that. For
But
6 months.
and it could. I mean, and that's probably more in line with what yours is.
Mine's actually a little bit less than that.
Right.
But
So-
I'm also 42. I'm not 21.
And I'm also not going to give you a number that's low have somebody call me next week.
No,
and be like, I heard you say on the GR Rideshare podcast it was only going to be $75, and you know what I mean.
So, no,
because I have seen them. I mean, I've seen them, even higher than what I've mentioned at times. So,
but that's rare.
It is rare.
So I have one follow-up question, if that's okay. You mentioned healthcare. Somebody either told me or I read somewhere, and I'm not 100% sure. But because of the no-fault insurance in Michigan, there's another unexpected situation that Uber's insurance won't cover, and that is if there is a person in the accident that's not in the vehicle. Do you guys know anything about that? If it is the second or the third periods, then if the person is not in the vehicle, I asked this question because we drive a lot at night. Okay, there's a lot of drunk people downtown that walk out in front of cars all the time.
Or you're saying like
that's a liability claim.
Yeah,
if you happen.
But it seems like I've heard that in that case, if you are in period 2 and 3, Uber's insurance will not cover the person that's not in your car.
No, Uber covers liability in period 2.
Okay, so that'll cover that person as well.
Right.
Okay.
It just wouldn't be a medical claim at that point. Right. That's liability.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right.
What's the difference? Just because I'm
liability is taking care of a second party.
Okay.
The medical will be taking care of the primary people that are the driver, the passenger, and the occupants of the car.
Okay.
Okay. So
thank you.
Walk us through the process as far as if we are involved in an accident. If you have the rideshare endorsement, do you still need to call Uber and Lyft? So if you're in period, so who do we call? So
if you're period 2 and 3, it's completely on your Lyft and rideshare.
Okay, so we don't need to contact you guys about it, or
it's always good to inform your agent.
Yeah,
it's not really directly something that the company has to or wants to know about it. Or I don't see any benefit in filing a claim with the company.
Right.
Now, you do run into scenarios. For example, there was a situation recently where we saw somebody had a collision in the car and somebody else was at fault. And if you're talking about Lyft, you have a $2,500 deductible. If you're talking about Uber, there's a $1,000 deductible. Let's just say the other person's at fault. Now, there may be the possibility of collecting a mini tort from the other person's insurance company if you're able to get that information. So that would be kind of an opportunity to talk to your agent to have them assist you with that mini tort.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you guys would talk through.
We would generally try to hold people's hands through that.
This is what you should do. It's, we're not paying out on this, but these are the steps you need to take.
It's never a bad idea to call your agent.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
Right.
That's kind of the difference though between Farmers, State Farm, and your local brick and mortar companies. You're going to talk to the person in that relationship. The minute you call Progressive, it's a claim with them. Oh. And some companies will look and whether at fault or not, a claim is a claim. Mm. And in all reality, you want to try to avoid putting through claims on your own insurance policy if at all possible.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of that, the minor things you can actually talk to your agent about.
Well, yeah, that's good that you help because, as much as we do it and, I don't know the process, like I need to sit down. I don't remember if Jamie was driving when that happened. On the Facebook page, if she was driving, right. If she was, I want to get her in here and, obviously she was driving, but for Uber or Lyft, if it's a claim through them, I don't know if it is or not. But.
It sounded like everything was going very nicely with that between Uber and I believe she probably had Progressive. I'm not sure who the Uber carrier was, but it seemed like everything was going smoothly.
Okay. Her. Yeah. It's always tricky. I think, knock on wood, we haven't had that happen.
I heard that the vehicle totaled, right?
Right.
Yeah, the airbag went off. It was an older Pontiac Vibe. I knew that thing would be totaled. So,
whenever an airbag goes off, it's
usually totaled.
Yeah.
Well, mine wasn't, but the car wasn't very old either. It doesn't drive the same either. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. Give us a scenario where someone who does not have rideshare endorsement insurance would not be covered in an accident under Uber and Lyft's insurance. Is that basically if you're just in that period 1?
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You bet. Like I said, you back out of your driveway, you got your app on and somebody hits you.
Okay.
And then we have the situation where we have the quote unquote fraud and they could actually lose their, what was the term you called it?
You could be non-renewed.
Right.
Like, it takes a lot for an insurance company to be able to flat cancel you midterm. Like, there's a lot. Like, it's something that I don't think I've ever even witnessed an insurance company being able.
They'll let you ride out the 6 months and then.
That's usually how it it has to be that way.
Okay.
And usually, I mean, and I don't want to get too far into the woods with a lot of this stuff, but usually what would happen is the claim, they have the right. Let me put it this way. They have the right to deny the claim. Whether the claim's going to be denied or not, I'm not going to say that just because you never really know. Because like we've said before, most insurance companies are usually trying to figure out a way to make their clients whole.
Sure.
Trying to make it right, trying to pay the claims and do those things. But because of the way policies are written, they've got a right to deny that claim.
Sure.
And then on top of that, because you have misrepresented facts on your application, they have every right to non-renew your policy at the next renewal.
Which is fair. I mean, you know the deal. You're deciding to not follow it. I mean, you hate to be a jerk about it. But
then the other thing that happens, and I don't think a lot of drivers will realize that, is then they risk getting deactivated from Lyft and Uber because Lyft and Uber both require full coverage in your vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the one thing to keep in mind for people like Jeff and I, brick and mortar agents and things like that, people that we're kind of like because if you think of like what Jeff, you introduced us as, from farmers, which we represent farmers, but we're the Jeff Lake agency. We're a small agency. We're a local company. We represent farmers. We actually work for you. You're our people, we work for our clients.
Sure.
We're a middleman between farmers and our clients. Okay. It's not us non-renewing you. In fact, we would do everything in our power to try to keep your policy enforced.
It's your business.
We don't have any control over that. The company underwriters are the ones who step in and do those actions because they see it.
Right.
So those aren't things that your agent has control over. It's not like we're calling up and saying, non-renew this guy. You know what I mean?
Unless he's a pain. But,
no comment. But that's how those things happen. These things come across desks and things like that because a claim happens. Those things get reviewed, and it's kind of like how Jeff said. A total loss happens on a car, $25,000. Minor injuries, maybe $5,000 trip, in an ambulance, maybe an x-ray here, there's some stitches. Nothing. We're like, okay, cool, pay it, get it done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? $500,000 in medical bills, a lot of red flags start going up.
Yeah.
A lot of investigations start happening.
Yeah, it makes your life probably.
We go, and even in our office on a regular claim like that, when you're talking about a major medical claim, we actually provide information to make sure that we crossed all of our T's and dotted all of our I's. And that's why we recognize going into this that the importance of not being in a gray area after the fact. But I want to say too, although we represent farmers, my experience over 20 some years is that 99.9% of the insurance companies that we run into every day, it's not just farmers. Contrary to what public opinion might be, whether you're talking Progressive or Nationwide or State Farm or Allstate, they look for reasons to do right by their people.
Oh, absolutely.
Those companies, none of them got to the point that they are by being poor servants to the people who pay their bills.
Right.
More often than not, when you look at the house in Florida that has the State Farm stinks sign or the Allstate stinks sign, it's typically because somebody made a shortcut.
Yeah.
And they didn't do the coverage. And that's that same scenario we're talking about now. Allstate is a great company. State Farm is as well, but we have crappy policies that we can sell you at Farmers. They do as well, but it's, we try to look, and I think that most reputable agents and most reputable companies try to look at people from the perspective of how will their life be the day after a claim, whether it be your house or your car. And we try to build policies that put people in a position to be able to rebuild everything they had when they sat down with us. And sometimes, unfortunately, that can be expensive because you might have a lot of stuff and you might not be the best driver. But I think in the beginning, if you do it right and you look at there are a lot of ways to make sure too that you can cover all your bases, but most companies are going to do everything they can to have you rebuilt and you whole the day after that claim.
Okay.
Sure.
No, we appreciate that. One question I had, we've been kind of going back and forth because we drive XL vehicles, which means we can take 6 people. Well, the platforms say 6 people plus the driver. I can take 7. I have a Honda Pilot, so I have bench seats, so I will just do it. I don't ever run into that issue typically, although over the weekend I had someone that tried to fit an 8th, and I said no. And we've been emailing the police department a little bit and kind of getting the skirt around as far as the actual. Well, they spit out some online, whatever the laws were, MCL, blah 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 blah. What I want to know is if we have more than what we're supposed to have and we get an accident, are we going to be covered under the insurance?
Okay. I did do a little research on that one.
Okay.
And I see in the Facebook page a fair amount of frustration on a regular basis with you guys
Every
go
weekend.
to pick up somebody and you pick up, you think that you're picking up 3 people and then here's the 4th drunk one. And unfortunately for you guys, we're not an easy way out of that. We would that is typically a covered claim. The insurance company is on the hook to cover, whether it be Uber. Now, keep in mind, when you're talking about, this is what our policy would be individually. But
in period
keep
1,
in mind,
which we
period
don't
2
have.
and period 3, that's when the people are in the car. That's an Uber deal. Now, so I would take that question back to Uber or Lyft and see exactly what James River is going to say about that.
Interesting.
Right, because since the Uber policy states, boom, you're not supposed to be having.
It doesn't. It says XL is 6 or more.
Is there any verbiage inside the Uber contract that states you're not supposed to have a certain amount of people?
I mean, we've never read
like
it through the whole thing. It's
They say follow your state laws,
right?
And then it says an XL is 6 or more, and that's where it gets gray because what is the top limit, right? And when you read the Michigan seatbelt law, well, if you're over 16, well, guess what? You don't have to wear a seatbelt,
Right.
But if you're under 16 and obviously infant and kid and all that stuff, then you obviously have to sit with a seatbelt. Now, most cars, XLs, if it's under 16, then it's fine, right? I have 6 belts. That's it. That's all I'm going to take. But what happens if these people are over, say, if they're over 16?
I think then you're back into that gray territory, and I don't like to be gray. And I think in the insurance world, we all live black and white. We want clarity, and you expect clarity from us the day after a claim. The same thing would hold true for that.
But you are saying, though, if you have more 7 people in the car and one is not wearing a seatbelt, anybody is not wearing a seatbelt, it would still be a covered claim.
I think it would be a covered claim. They're going to have to follow tort law and the MedPIP law in Michigan. But on the other hand, I would be concerned about if you welcomed more people into that vehicle than the state allows, or if you knew you as the confident driver that is welcoming people into your car beyond its legal capacity. I think we just said their legal capacity, then you might have a challenge down the road. And I don't know that I want to do that.
A lot of this is going to come up when you're looking at liability more than when you're looking at whether something's covered or not. Because now you're getting into what's going to happen in a room of court, in court.
And I think the problem I have is, as I read the law, it's the same gray area. So I apologize for interrupting, but it is this whole same gray area. There's no specific. I think the words is, as long as you're following the rules of the seatbelt, and there's more passengers in the car, then you are following the law.
My concern would be a good attorney would see that there are only 6 seatbelts in that car, and if you put 7 people in that car, they could make a case of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're going to fight that tooth.
It makes me feel like Sam Bernstein would destroy that.
Yeah, I mean,
take a look at this.
Peasy.
Look at the situation going on with the limousine right now.
And
that could be any one of the rideshare drivers. That's really now you're in this scenario where you've got all these people deceased, and you have a opportunity for attorneys to go nuts there. That could happen to any driver at any given time. That is why you don't want to be gray, because it's awful that those people lost their lives, but it's going to be awful for the the people that own that business to deal with that.
Yeah.
And what their exposure is.
Yeah, it sounds like he didn't have a license. The car wasn't.
His chauffeur's license was expired.
Oh, well, that's not. I mean,
that's what it was.
It's a chauffeur's. It's a 20 question thing. I mean, I have a chauffeur, so that's not the huge deal. But the inspection part of the car wasn't able to be on the road.
But keep in mind the other thing too, that every time you get into that car, if you happen to be married and you have kids, and you happen to have that one really bad accident that day, it's the car, but it's your family that has to deal with what you've left behind.
Right. True.
And
that's a good point.
Your spouse, the people who are truly important to you, have to pick up the pieces on whatever may have happened.
Yeah.
We have a really good friend of ours. He works with our district. He says something. It rings true with me all the time. And when you guys were talking about this, it kind of brought it up to me is, when we're looking at policies and we're looking at households and we're doing things like that, the one thing that always rings in our head and what we have to think about is what you have now. Is it putting everything in your life at risk right now?
Yeah.
And do I need to change that for you? So any of the rideshare drivers that are listening to this right now, the way you have your auto insurance policy set up, is it putting your entire life as you know it right now at risk?
Right.
And if you think that question is absurd, you may actually want to re-ask yourself that question.
And especially a lot of these drivers, most of them are part-time. So you're just making some extra gig. We call it the gig economy. You're a weekend warrior. So you might have, typically they have a full-time job. So you're doing your thing. You got a house. You're like, I'm just going to pay some debt off, right? Whatever, make some extra money. And then you don't have the coverage. And all of a sudden, guess what? You're not only not going to pay the debt off, you're going to get sued. You're going to get, it's terrible.
It's part of an investment of any time. If you're any job that you have, no matter what, you have to buy the equipment. You have to buy all the, there are very few jobs that you can just walk to and come as you are and not have any ownership in it.
Right.
One of the pieces of being a rideshare driver is, unfortunately for them, having the insurance. And if you can't make the numbers with the insurance, it's a business. And I think that's a big challenge that I see, a frustration I see in a part of, I look at people who drive for Lyft. $2,500 deductibles.
It's huge.
Okay, you're talking about people right now who are complaining that they can't afford the insurance.
Yeah, the $150.
But yet they're going to be able to handle a $2,500 deductible.
No, they cannot.
It doesn't make sense.
They don't know any better. Most of the people who drive, I don't think they know what the
and they're probably not.
is.
They're probably not listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
either. The odds are good. And I look at a fair amount of my kids' college friends that do the rideshare. They're drivers over summer break or over holidays. And of course they do not have the insurance and, they think they're getting away with something, but, you're putting your life, your future at risk. And we're not going to change their opinion over this.
No,
but
just try to educate them the best you can. And I think a lot of people, you're thinking a lot of people just don't know.
Oh yeah. They simply don't know how the insurance is going to cover.
Right, because they figure their Lyft and Uber will cover.
I don't think Lyft and Uber does a good enough job at explaining the situation by any means. Right. They say, you're covered. Well, yeah, no, you're not. I mean, you're covered until you're not. You guys keep bringing up the all the time. You got to know the situation you're in. You got to know what. I mean, it's essentially you have to analyze your worst case scenario
always.
Right.
That's what we unfortunately do for a living. So we tend to be rather dark. Where we're not fun people to be with, and I think both of our any insurance agent's spouse would be frustrated because we underwrite every single thing that we do in life. Sure. And if gosh, we're not going to buy that house because it looks like the water was up there 2 years ago, and that car rolls over more often than the other car does.
Oh.
And, so we ruin a lot of people's parties, but I think we do that with really the intent is to make sure that we don't have difficult times ahead because we've seen other people that have had that.
Oh, that's got to be heartbreaking.
It is, but in the other realm of it, you got to look at it from the side of we also have the ability of putting people back together.
True.
And, I think, especially in our office, we do a really good job of that.
I tell you, farmers regularly, and I imagine most insurance companies do, send out letters to their clients on a regular basis. What is your experience with your agent? What's your experience with the company? I had one that came to me this last week, and I haven't yet had an opportunity to share it with my office. But a lady who lost her husband recently because of an accident that happened several years ago. And it was a long, long process, and he eventually, complications related to the accident. She's also gone through a terrific amount, just ridiculous amount of unanticipated claims. The neat thing that I can't believe that, through all that she's been through, the lady now makes these glowing comments about the experience she's had with farmers, the experience she's had with her agent.
Nice.
And I don't think we've done all that much, frankly, but we set her up originally with the last day in mind. And it's because of that, I feel horrible for her.
Sure.
It's just a stupid insurance policy. But on the other hand, that stupid insurance policy is what took care of everything for her. So it's the right planning can put people in the right position when really awful things happen.
Yeah, can you imagine if you had sold her or them as a couple a cheap policy and this happened, and then you're feel like, oh, why did you guys go with this? I can't pay anymore.
I think the difference between my office per se and we'll say agents who are brand new is that I've been around the block long enough to not be desperate for your next policy.
Yeah.
And I will tell whether it's Matt or there are two Matts that work in my office and Eric that, it's incumbent upon us to do what's right, not what's easy. And we could make money easily by selling cheap policies. That is not who we are. And there are people that will do that, and that's unfortunate for that client. But there has to be. I can't do that. I can't put myself in a position. I'm too accountable for everybody else's life. Whether it's their house, their car, their boat, their travel trailer, you name it. I would feel awful personally if these things, bad things happen and we didn't exercise every opportunity to make them whole again.
Yeah, I feel like with insurance, if your agent's super young, you might not want to choose that guy. You might want to find somebody that's been around the block a few times.
There's a couple of young agents that I know personally that's not always the case.
Okay.
So
it's the training and the culture, the ethics of the individual.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think you can really, it's really hard to tell. I mean, I look at it in the realms because I know older agents that just turn and burn.
Yeah. That's a shame.
And it's kind of going back to a little bit what he had said before. It's not the company name on the door. It's more the name on the door.
Yeah.
I think the agent has more to do with how well things are done for their clients than the big name.
Than the corporate. Yeah, I agree.
Because I think most corporate names, they wouldn't be around for as long as they have if they were doing bad things.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
I know that people always say, oh, State Farm this. And that, trust me, we write farmers. Why would I want to say anything good about State Farm? They wouldn't be the number one insurance company for no reason.
Right.
They're obviously doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but do you guys have any solid numbers of rideshare accidents?
No, that's and I even tried to find out within farmers if we had any. And I think the thing that I've been curious about for the last 3 years since this whole rideshare thing evolved in Michigan is testing the MCCA and testing that MedPIP benefit. Again, from the beginning, I said, you guys, repairing a car is no big deal. They're all going to settle on that, and that's quick, and that's penny cash to an insurance company. That $500,000 claim is not. And I'm not aware of an actual solid test of the MCCA involving a MedPIP claim personally. There may be claims, I just don't know about them. That's not my end of it.
All right. I was just curious. Do you have any additional questions, Jesper? I know I went through some of these they already answered, so I didn't repeat them. Is there anything else that we should know? I mean, that pops into your head about rideshare insurance. Obviously, I mean, call your agent and get it. And if you have the 4 companies in Michigan, and that was what? Farmers,
State Farm, Progressive for sure.
Okay.
We believe that Allstate is doing it as well.
Okay. Yeah,
Don't quote us on that, but I'm in Jeff's camp on that. I believe they are as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Progressive offers a commercial policy, and when you're talking about multiple cars and possibly even multiple drivers, Progressive has an outstanding program. They actually offer it is a commercial policy, and that. There are a fair amount of rideshare drivers that also own limos. Mm-hmm. And, so that's a great avenue to look at. Now, Farmers, State Farm, Allstate, we deal more with the moms and dads that are in this. A lot of the people that walk in our door every day happen to be retired people.
Sure.
And this is an opportunity for them to meet people and meet friends. It's widows, widowers. That's a great thing for them to do. And typically they recognize how much the value of having the insurance, and it's not that costly.
Sure.
The sad thing again is the people who typically don't have the rideshare, who can't afford it, probably shouldn't be rideshare driving anyway.
Correct.
And if you think about, I was reading today in one of the rideshare journals online about people questioning why more companies aren't getting into the rideshare market. Unfortunately, I don't think that I doubt that there are going to be a whole lot more getting into the market than are in it today. I don't find farmers to be terrifically enamored with the market right now. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if you look, there's been a terrific decrease in the amount of cab drivers lately.
Yeah. And
cab drivers are not notorious. They're not known for being the safest, most conservative drivers on the road. And a fair amount of those people have segued over into the rideshare world.
Right.
So cab drivers, as a rule, had to be insured. Most insurance companies wanted nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. And that category had to be insured through the state pool, which would be the MAIPF, Michigan Auto Insurance Placement Facility. And there were programs, commercial policies through Progressive or like companies that specialize in that. But that, if you look at you're bringing in a whole different type of driver, the professional driver. And that's, a lot of insurance companies aren't even fond of dealing with the sales rep that goes door to door.
Yeah.
So you're getting a little outside the line of a mainline auto insurance company. So, in terms of, do I see rates decreasing in auto insurance? First of all, no. I think the MCCA is going to take another increase, I would imagine, in January or July. So that means every company across the state will take another increase.
Right.
I believe I read this week they're 1 point something billion in the hole still,
right,
after the most recent increase. So,
well, we also have to see what happens with the election too.
Right.
Yeah.
The best thing in the world, and our personal vote would be a reform of the MedPIP law. Mm-hmm. In Michigan, we pay a ridiculous amount for our auto insurance versus our neighboring states.
Right.
And that would be rideshare drivers as well. When it comes to election time, it would be your time to look and see exactly how your representatives, how your party aligns with auto insurance reform. We pay, I think every insurance agent in Michigan would agree that we're paying more than we should be.
Right. Yeah.
The benefits are ridiculously wonderful, but they're more than we can afford.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the biggest thing about that, if you guys don't mind me going on just a real quick tangent.
No, that's fine. I'm going to go let my dog out.
No, you're good.
Driving me nuts.
So the biggest reason why we pay what we pay when it comes to the unlimited medical is though that, we are the only state who has unlimited medical coverage on our personal injury protection coverages. But when that medical claim hits, you go to the hospital and you have to have your MRIs done or your CAT scans or your x-rays or your surgeries or anything like that. There's no schedule for that benefit. So like, you hurt yourself in the backyard playing with your kids or something like that. You go into the hospital, you give them your Blue Cross Blue Shield or your Priority Health Card. There's a schedule for everything that's going to be done because Priority's already worked out exactly what they're going to pay, right?
Yeah.
You get into an auto accident, there's nothing like that.
Mm.
So that $800 MRI that for just a regular injury through BCBS or through Priority Health is now $5,000.
Why haven't they worked with the car insurance companies?
Do you really want to know my opinion?
Oh boy. Nope, you don't have to talk about it. That's fine. I
Go online, pull up every single state rep in the state of Michigan. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on.
Okay.
Look and see who funds their campaigns.
Yeah.
That's all I want you to do. I'm not going to say anything beyond that.
Okay.
Look and see who funds every single state rep in the state of Michigan. And that'll answer why.
Or at least make up your own opinion about it.
Yeah. And this is not Republican or Democrat.
No.
Because they're all, but when you go to vote in November, especially for state reps, especially for governor, especially for all that stuff, anybody who's talking about wanting to reform, if you ask me, that's who I think should be getting our votes. So,
all right. How can drivers get in contact with you to sign up for either insurance or, I mean, obviously you don't offer the rideshare without the insurance, right?
Correct.
We should specify that.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
In my head, I feel like I'm assuming that everyone knows that. But
let me just say too, we are I refer a terrific amount of people to Progressive,
okay,
and we regularly will, if we see that we're in left field for somebody, we're going to try to put them in the right place.
That's nice.
And
we just won't be like, bye.
It's
good luck.
and a lot of people will get to us even before that point and say thank you, no thank you, and they're on their way. But
Right.
if we're looking at a scenario where we recognize that client should be ideally with Progressive or State Farm or Allstate, we're going to send them that way. But if somebody would like to get a hold of us, they can always go to our website, which is kind of hard to find. But if you just plug in Farmers Insurance and you go to, actually, you don't have to come necessarily to us, but to any farmer's agent, you just go to Farmers Insurance and you look at your local zip code, you plug that in and you'll find the nearest agent. Otherwise, we are in Easttown at Wealthy and Fuller, and
1136 Wealthy Street Southeast.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of Wealthy and Fuller.
We're right by the Wealthy Street Theater, literally.
Okay, because there's a bank on the corner
Yep.
there.
Huntington Bank.
Huntington Bank.
Uncle
Okay.
Cheetah Soup Shop are right across the street from that. Our phone number is 616-726-2475. You can also text that number as well.
Cool.
So
Cool. Yeah, that's a good place for a location. All that great food down there on Wealthy Street.
tell me.
Yeah.
I'm not far from you.
for those that are just listening, I just pointed at my awesome.
Yeah, our last live stream Wednesday, someone was trolling us on there saying that we're all fat. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. All four of us.
Yeah, that's all
It's
good.
taken a long time to build this body.
Yeah, right. That's right.
This is Body by Beer right here.
There
Yeah,
you go.
no kidding.
You can actually also just search Jeff Lake Farmers Insurance on Google,
Yep.
and then you come up.
Yep.
So that's an easy way of doing
Yeah,
it.
and you can
as
find
well.
us on Facebook. You can instant message. I handle all the Facebook stuff too, so you're
Okay.
going to talk to me if you go through that. I mean,
Okay.
we're very accessible. So
one of the if I can add, one of the really
Absolutely.
awesome things about farmers is that farmers, I don't know if you guys realize, we employ nearly 5,000 people in Kent County.
Whoa.
Farmers is now almost, I believe we're the fourth largest employer in Kent County.
Yep.
Farmers has two massive buildings out on just off of Craft and 68th.
no,
Oh,
M6. Yeah,
Drop,
M6.
drop
and
people
60.
out there all the time.
Yeah.
Right. That is Farmers
It's right by
Insurance.
Davenport University.
When you're looking at where you're putting your money and where your insurance is, you're buying insurance from, not only are you buying it locally and you're supporting a local agent and the money stays in your community, but on top of that, if you look at the millions and millions and millions of dollars that Farmers is terrifically excited to give back to the community, both in wages, taxes. If you look at the Farmers Field over at Davenport University, Farmers is extremely excited about being involved in our community, and they regularly encourage every agent within our area to get out and be involved. We're involved. Matt and Eric and my office are terrifically involved in classrooms and giving back to teachers and schools. We run a fair amount of promotions where we're handing out Amazon Fires and other school things as well. So we're a lot more than just insurance. We're about being involved in the community and giving back to that community. So insurance is great. Everybody has to have it, but it's also good to be able to have that relationship with somebody who wants to be involved in your community. And that is what we do at Farmers.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
guys.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.